Global happenings today. We communicate. We analyze global news. Stay tuned.
Hello, good people. Welcome back to our channel. We're so excited to have you again. The Senate have finally reacted to the Easter message sent out by Tunde Bakari, the overseer of the Citadel Global Community Church. During that Easter message, I call it Easter message because it was delivered on Easter Sunday. It took our time to lambast and condemn the senior suspension of Senator Akbuti Uduaghan and also the issue of state of emergency in Rivers State by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He took our time to deal with the issues on ground, and I would say that the score mark for Bola Ahmed Tinubu was next to nothing as he truly lambasted him left, right, center. It didn't go well with a lot of senators. However, the Senate has decided to hit back at him, and let's give you full details of what they have to tell the person of Tunde Bakari. According to the news, the leadership of the Senate has dismissed Pastor Tunde Bakari's recent comment on the National Assembly's rule in the declaration of the state of emergency in Rivers State and the suspension of Kogi Central Senator Natasha Akbuti Uduaghan. It been reported that the Senate described Bakari's remark as misleading and containing unwarranted invective. On Sunday, the overseer of the Citadel Global Community Church condemned the senior suspension of Senator Akbuti Uduaghan and the rectification of the state of emergency in Rivers by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He accused the country's leaders of attempting to turn Nigeria into a mafia state and criticized the Senate for its role in what he described as institutional immorality. According to him, he says that the two main contenders in the ongoing institutional immorality Olympics are the executive and the legislature. In a statement issued today on the Senate through the chairman of the Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Yemi Adaramodu, responded to Bakari's public comments, stressing that while the Senate respected the rights of citizens to express their views, it could not remain silent when such statements crossed the line. The statement signed by Adaramodu referred to Bakari's comment as sweeping generalization and disparaging commentary that threatened to erode public trust in democratic institutions. According to him, he says that the attention of the Senate of the 10th National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has been drawn to recent public remarks made by Pastor Tunde Bakari, which included a sweeping generalization and disparaging commentary aimed at the institution of the National Assembly. Adaramodu acknowledged Pastor Bakari's previous contribution to national discourse, but noted that his recent statement deviated from constructive criticism and were marked by contempt and unsubstantiated claims. According to him, he says, Pastor Bakari, a cleric and a political voice in his own right, has previously contributed to national discourse in ways that have poor reflection. He said, however, his recent statement veer away from constructive criticism into rhetoric, unfortunately, last with contempt and unsubstantiated claims. The Senate spokesperson further described Bakari's criticism as a biased and politically ecumenical homily, questioning the political motive behind the remarks. Adaramodu also pointed to Bakari's background as a trained lawyer and political figure, stressing that the cleric should be aware of the constitutional limits surrounding public commentary, especially on issues currently before the court. According to them, they say he is therefore well aware of the constitutional boundaries that guide public commentary, particularly on matters that are sub judice. He further clarified that the Senate would refrain from engaging in matters that were before the court in respect of the rule of law and judicial independence. The Senate also addressed Bakari's suggestion that the National Assembly should openly challenge the executive, calling such display performative. Adaramodu emphasized that true legislative oversight does not rely on adversarial tension, but rather on principle, engagement, and result-driven processes. According to him, he says, while some may attempt to portray an unnecessary adversarial dynamics between the National Assembly and the executive arm of government as a marker of virility in checks and balances, we must clarify that such tension, though it may entertain some, does not necessarily equate to effective legislative oversight. Daramodu also reflected or rejected Bakari's comparison to the infamous state term agenda, stating that the 10th National Assembly has never been approached with any unconstitutional request by the executive. He argued that the Senate's actions were in line with its constitutional mandate, and casting aspersion on the institution based on personal frustration or ideological differences was both unfair and counterproductive. In his word, he says, to cast aspersion on the entire institution based on personal frustration, ideological differences, or as positioning ahead of possible future political alignment is not only unfair but also counterproductive to our collective democratic journey. Daramodu expressed confidence that over time, Pastor Bakari would recognize the Senate's effort and commend the 10th National Assembly for acting in the best interest of Nigerians. He urged a more nuanced review of the Senate performance, particularly in light of the challenges of the current time. In his word, he says, we are confident that in time, with a nuanced review of the performance of the 10th National Assembly within the context of the exigencies of this time and season, Pastor Bakari may at some point in the future commend us for acting in the best interest of the people of Nigeria in line with our constitutional mandate. That was the position of the Senate. It was, a way of, I love the way they reacted to it. It was not confrontational. And it did not convey any form of disrespect to the office of the cleric, but they try to explain themselves, and try to point it out that whatever they are doing are in the best interest of the public. But I think that they should review their actions, especially some of the things that have been in the public glare. For example, the issue of Natasha. Up till today, we've not heard if the Senate would tell the Senate President to step aside for investigation into the case. I mean, it's a case of moral decadence. At that level, it's totally condemnable, and everybody had expected that something like that will happen. So I think they should review their actions, first of all, before responding to this kind of issue. And on the issue of cooperating with executive to perform their rascality, which in other words is totally unconstitutional and works against democratic tenets, it should be a subject of consideration, because if we must put the cards on the table, their decision for a while now has totally played down on the significance of the Constitution, which is a key document upon which a democratic republic runs with. There are a lot of provisions which has been talked down on. Judiciary itself, we are not so sure if they have not been kidnapped and forced to do things that ought not to be done. So many things. I feel that dragging them out the way Tunde Bakari did is a way of telling them, Nigerians are watching you guys. They may not come to you and tell you your errors, but from my performance review of your actions and everything clearly shows you guys have failed. Is it they are the worst? Dating back from 2006 down to this time, because we can still remember when we reflect on what other legislative houses have done. They clearly showed that they were watchdogs over each other. They were checking the activities of both the executive and the judiciary. I mean, 2006 we saw what played out, how the term bid of the president, Olusegun Obasanjo, was being frustrated by the Senate. I mean, it's not just him alone. We saw what happened during Buhari's first tenure, how a lot of things move by Buhari was being frustrated by the same day. So for me, I think that they should review their actions and correct them. So that's what we like to leave in this commission.